Welcome to Mindset Chatter. Today's fabulous guest, Tori Lammes from the Sunshine State of Florida, FCA, ex Roberts Wesleyan, ex Embry Riddle. I didn't do you justice. Welcome, Tori.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I This will be my second podcast with you. We did one when I was a student athlete at Roberts. And then this is going to be my second one. I'm excited.
Yeah, that was I forget what episode. That was six in the six. That was like it started off as surprise the goalie with six questions, and you as goalie friend snuck into that one. Uh,
Yeah, that was
Anyway,
fun.
I I can't remember. I say this to everyone. I can't remember if I thought of you and then the topic, or if the topic came to me and I thought of you because of the topic. Anyway, especially after just being in Florida working with you, the thought of like empowering words, words that like fire us up or fire up our athletes kind of came to me, and you were an obvious candidate. So that
Yeah.
today's fabulous topic. So like when I say like the power of words on our athletes, what do you think of?
I think of, like you said, when an athlete, when you see them down on themselves, just beating themselves up, I think of things that are really gonna just like be able to change their mindset within a quick time frame. In some instances, like especially with my athletes that I work with at South Walton, it's just being able to like dig a little piece of their brain out and be like, hey, remember this? Like, remember when you did this? Well, yeah, I need you to keep doing that. And I think that's mostly because of my time at Roberts when you were like, okay, well, what can you do better? Why? And what are you going to continue to do well? And why? And just being able to pick that tiny sliver of their brain and be like, hey, like, remember, you do this really well, like, continue to do that. So I think it's really important when you're able to kind of catch that athlete. You got to catch them when they're being good too. So like when they're doing really great things, you got to be like, hey, look at this girl. Oh no, I'm so sorry. My dog's scared of the thunder, so she barks at it. And I don't know why. Tries to intimidate it. I don't know. Anyway, so I think that's super duper important to catch them when they're being good and be like, hey, did you see how amazing that was? And just being able to use words that gets them excited to keep being amazing or whatever word you're using at the time.
I think one of the things you made me think of is um, we can hear these words, people telling us this. It's almost like I'm a little down on affirmations currently because I think if inside we don't believe what we're saying or what we're hearing, it might even put us in a worse spot. So, I mean, what kind of, and maybe some of your experiences as an athlete would apply to this. It's like a motivational poster. I can hang that up and read it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of hollow. I mean, what kind of work do you think goes in either like what did you do for yourself or for our athletes to make them recognize that hey, this isn't just fluff, it's like it's real. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like speaking as an athlete and then like trying to or and then speaking like as a coach. I think that when I like caught myself down on myself, I would think of like small wins. Be like, okay, well, let's forget that, I'm kind of crapping my pants here, not playing well. Let's focus on things like that I am doing well. Like if I beat a girl to a ground ball, perfect. That's a win. It's a small win, but it's still a win. Okay, I just made an assist. Okay, that's another win. I just won that draw control. That's another win. So that's three wins that I've already had, and I have 45 minutes more to play. Let's keep counting wins. And sometimes I know coaches say, like, hey, don't look at your statistics, like, just go out and play. But as a player that was so like mentally in tune with the way I played lacrosse, it was hard to like not drift there. So I would take like all those small wins and be like, okay, well, now I can do the big things. Like sometimes it's just being able to take those small wins and then come away with the big ones too, like scoring a goal, making an interception, taking calculated risks, and just making sure, like, okay, I believe in myself when I got that ground ball. I did this, I did this. Now I can really believe in myself. And I know my coaches trust me. So let me just do the work.
How did you, I like that, and I think I know that we're both on the same wavelength when it comes to coaching in that manner. But how about the experiences where you have a coach that's like that and instills that positive, I don't want to call it positive, that encouraging self-talk, and you get to a different environment, different team, different club, whatever, where it's more about, the win culture, where it's win, win, win. You don't get that ground ball, you're going to get pulled off the field. I mean, how do you balance that negative experience and try to keep up that encouraging self-talk in the good times?
I think, well, having seen it both ways as an athlete and as a coach, being in that like just win culture, um, I think it's important for athletes to just take a step back and be like, okay, well, if I make a mistake, I know I'm going to get pulled off. So really, it's about like that you versus you mindset. Like, okay, well, I got pulled off because I missed that ground ball. Well, now when I get the opportunity to go back in, I'm going to win every freaking ground ball. Um, just to like kind of put like a tiny little chip on your shoulder and be like, hey, like, I know you didn't believe in me then, but now I'm going to prove you wrong. Because now it's me versus me. I know I made a mistake, but now when I go back out there, my mental side of things is I'm going to win every single ground ball now just to prove that person wrong, that coach wrong. Um, Sometimes, like, and we talked about this when you were in Florida too, is like, in my opinion, sometimes when that happens, when you're in that win culture, I feel like that coach or, whoever's the leader on the team, um, sometimes it's okay to like channel that dark energy a little bit and be like, okay, well now it's time to prove my coach wrong because I know I'm more than capable of getting that ground ball. And now I'm going to win every single one just to prove this person wrong.
How how hard from a coach perspective, um, when you see an athlete, they go back in, you can see they've got a lot of heart and soul there, but they're not going to be able to win every ground ball like you just talked about, right? Uh, Obviously we know perfection doesn't exist.
Yeah.
How how do we deal with, I mean, how do you deal with those athletes that go out there with that confidence, with that courage, and inevitably stumble again? And you can see it in their body language. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what do we say to them? What do you say to them when those occurrences happen to keep their their motivation up, their drive?
I usually tell my athletes, like, hey, I'm not the type of coach that ponders on mistakes. Like, I really don't care if you make a mistake. It's what you do after. Like, if the hanging of the head happens, they slam their stick, I have like a good conversation about them and say, hey, like, you want to play at the next level, right? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, think about it this way. Like, put yourself in a coach's shoes. Like, would you want to take an athlete that slammed their stick, that hangs their head, or would you rather take an athlete that, yeah, you might have just lost that ground ball, but let's go fight. Let's go fight to get it back. So like my words of encouragement would just be like, hey, keep fighting, keep fighting. Like, break that curse out of your head and keep going, keep fighting. Because at the end of the day, it's what you do after. It's not, we can't dwell on the past. It's in the past now. You lost a ground ball, whoop de doo. Like, go get it back. Go fight for it. Go show me that you want the ball on your stick. Because if we don't have the ball, the other team does.
Yeah, I kind of like that you called it a curse, because I think when I think of a curse, it's not necessarily what happened in the past. It's kind of like what's going on in the future is going to be affected by this. And I think the bigger problem than dwelling on the past and the mistakes is that we project those into the future, and
Oh
we
yeah.
and we start to say, wow, if I don't do this correctly that next time, I'm going to get pulled. Or if I don't do this, my teammate's going to give me stink eye, or they're going to hate me, or I'm going to lose my scholarship, or I won't make the team. And we catastrophize. Is that the right word? We
Yeah.
we we make these mountains out of these little molehills that they might not even happen. And I think, I mean, how many times, I mean, from a personal experience as you as a player, how many times did you like project this horrendous future based on something that happened in the past?
Oh, I will never forget this game. I don't, you might have been there. I'm not sure, but it was when we played Damon, and this was like the game that I had a really good warm up, and then we went into the locker room because it literally started hailing. Were you there at that one? I think you
I
were.
remember that. That's when we had to break into the press box to start the game.
Yeah. Um, but I remember just having like that really good warm up, having a really good mindset going into the game, ready to kick some butt. And then all of a sudden, like as soon as I stepped out in the field, I just remember like my head just feeding me like, okay, well, I need to be able to catch the ball. If I don't catch the ball, like KCP is going to pull me off. But that rarely ever happened. But I was just kept feeding myself. And I think it was after that game, I came into your office and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I'm literally a practice All American. And I get into a game and I crap my pants. Um, so just like being able, and we talked about this too, is like being able to be vulnerable with yourself and be like, hey, okay, well, what am I doing wrong? What can I do to fix that? And also like taking the word don't out of kind of like the way that I speak to myself and my athletes. If I don't do this, if I don't do that, if you don't do this, like it's showing that your future can't be changed because you're dwelling on not doing something or you're thinking about not doing it when you can just go out there and simply do it, like just play, do it. So I think that's super duper important is just like being able to be vulnerable and showcase to yourself like, hey, I'm struggling right now, I really need some help, how can I fix it?
Yeah, I think you hit on an important point with the words we use to ourselves. Don't, can't, should. Um, like we always, and we catch ourselves as coaches doing it, right? Hey, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so inbred in the way that I think we think and communicate that we really have to be intentional about it. But I've heard and I've seen it played out that our brain can't, they don't hear the don'ts and can'ts. So if it's like, hey, don't miss that ground ball next time, we don't, all we hear is miss the ground ball next time. And
Yeah,
so, I mean, to your point, just change that wording and say, hey, get the next ground ball. And
yeah.
it gets back to what you were saying earlier too, like what do we do after we make a mistake? And I know we talked about it. What's important now? If we're
Mm-hmm.
constantly running that, what's important now? What's important now? Whether it's going positively or negatively, I think that's a good way to view things.
Yeah, me too. And one of the things that I went over in my lesson last week with one of my girls from South Walton was like, okay, what do you, and I tried to incorporate more of your teachings as well, was like, okay, what's your purpose for today? Like, what do we want to get better at? And why? And then we just kept going through like, and she had told me she was like, I want to get better at moving off ball, and I was like, okay. So we went over a scenario where she would be playing on the wing, and I had set up cones. I said, okay, you're gonna start from up top, you're gonna dodge, it's not gonna be there, you're gonna pop out for help because you're gonna get rid of it to the girl down low because that's what we would do. And I told her, okay, once you hit this cone, you're looking for a cut because now you have to clear through for this girl that you just passed the ball to. So you're going to look for that cut. And I'm either going to hit you on that cut or I'm going to hit you off of the pick on this opposite side. And she was like, okay. And then we kept going through that. And as she was going through, and I was like, okay, well, I want you to try this. I said, there's not one way to do things. And I think that's super important for coaches to tell athletes is like, like every single lacrosse player is different. A person is going to cradle completely different from the next. Someone's going to dodge differently. It's going to look differently between each player. So there's not a right or a wrong way to do things. And I think that's super important for coaches to preach because there are so many different ways that you can do something. Like shooting, for example, you can shoot on the GLE and score. You can shoot right up on the crease and score. You can shoot from the 8 meter and score. You can shoot from the 12, so forth. Like there's not ever one right way to do things. And I think that, when I played in that win culture, I saw a lot of the you can't do this, you can't do that from a coach. And hearing those words, one, it completely stripped my confidence and creativity. And that's one thing as a coach I preach to my girls is, hey, have confidence, be courageous, and be creative. Because creativity, you have no idea the lengths that it could take you. If you know how to do it behind the back and you have 2 or 3 girls on you in a game, that's going to probably be your only option. If you don't know how to do it, you might be cooked. Um, so I think that it's super duper important for coaches to preach that onto their athletes. That way they're doing things that in practice that they might not always do. And
Yeah,
it's good for their confidence.
I agree with that. And it kind of goes back to you're making me think of adding something to that script where like what's important now. But I think when we're talking about creativity, and it's definitely got to be practiced because how
Mm-hmm.
can we get angry at them or frustrated when they've never even tried something? And
Yeah.
especially if it's the environment we set up. But maybe the script in their head should be what if? What if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't work out? To your point, it's like I need to be able to be adjust on the fly and be very instinctual with what I choose to do.
Yeah.
But if I'm
And,
going to keep if I'm going to keep running, what if this doesn't happen? I should also give equal time to the other side of that and say, hey, what if this does work out? Because I
yeah.
think a lot of times something works out and we're like, oh crap,
Oh,
it worked. What do I do now?
yeah. And I was going to cut you off and be like, hey, if we change that wording to if I do this, this can happen or this, and it could be good. Because we don't like taking those risks. We're scared of the risk, but I like to, as a coach, enforce those risks on my athletes because you never know what could happen. Okay, if you go pressure out ball, you're playing defense, you go pressure out. The best thing that could happen is you get the turnover and come away with the ball. Why would you not want to do that? Or on offense, we set you up for an ISO. You might not take that many ISOs, and you're thinking to yourself, oh crap, I can't beat this girl. Obviously, you're not going to beat that girl. But if you go into it and you say, okay, when I beat this girl, I'm going to score a goal and we're going to be up and we're going to be winning. And yeah, that leans towards that win culture, but it's also like that team mindset of like, what can I do now? What's in the present? What's important now? And put that on the athlete and be like, okay, well, they're signing me up for an ISO because that's important for me to go to goal and score because they trust me. Or I trusted myself to take this ball to goal and score and put my team up because that's what the team needs right now.
Well, and I think when you get to a certain level of play, that the team average, the overall whatever, the skill level differential between teams is probably very small. And I think what starts to make teams stand out or be better than others are um, either their mindset, what's going on between their ears is better, culture wise, self-talk wise, whatever that is. I think that's one variable that makes a difference. The other one is maybe consistency in the fundamentals or in the core skills. That we can all do the same skills, but can one of us do it better than the other? And I think the third one's like creativity and innovation.
Hmm.
Who can pull out the unexpected, right?
Hmm.
Like, wow, we've never seen that. And who doesn't want a move named after them or a shot named after them? And we can't get to that point if we're constrained within a, hey, this is the way it's done. Hey, this is the way it's done. Obviously, there's rules and you have to play a certain way, but like you said, nobody told me that a shot has to be done this way.
Hmm. Um, and just speaking like on my time at Embry Riddle, um, I think that like we had a really, really great team with super good fundamentals, but what happened in the locker room, what happened with like the coaching staff, I think that's where like we fell apart because we were a talented team. Like we my senior year, like we probably could have, or my junior year even, um, if we got the opportunity to play my junior year, we probably could have made it to the national championship. Um, we just had the talent, the work ethic to do that, but our culture wasn't necessarily right. We had like a good foundation for our culture, but it wasn't pushed the right way. Or like our coaches didn't really do that well of a job enforcing it the right way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. And if we kind of pull it back to the topic of like words that fire us up, empower us kind of thing, I mean, what was the impact on the inter-team communication that was kind of not helpful for you guys getting to that maybe that national title game? Or how did that environment maybe impact your self-talk as it came to how you related in that environment?
For myself, I believe like the way that the coaches would talk to us as athletes, like saying, hey, that's not the right way to do this. Like, if you want to know what not to do, watch this person. I think it's like a very negative environment. And that held a lot of us back from performing at our best because it's like, hey, well, if I do that, I know it's not right because that person just did it. I'm going to get yelled at. So even if I try to do something new, it's risky and it's too risky. And I'd rather not risk my playing time doing something bad. So I think that, and then going to a culture like Roberts or when I played for the Virgin Islands, it was like, okay, take all the calculated risks that you want. I don't care if you mess up. At the end of the day, we're here to have fun. We're here to, yes, winning is nice, losing sucks, but at the end of the day, lacrosse is fun. Like we should be having fun. There should be nothing holding you back from doing that. And unfortunately for me, I didn't realize that till later on in the season where I was like, okay, like lacrosse is supposed to be fun. I'm supposed to be having fun. And all I can do is think to myself, okay, well, if I do this, I'm going to get pulled off. If I do that, I'm going to get pulled off. And I was just stuck in that. What if I do this? It's going to be bad because of the culture I was in previously. So it's important to be like, okay, this is supposed to be fun. Like, I don't really care if I mess up because I love lacrosse. And at the end of the day, I'm here to have a good time.
Yeah, and
So.
I think a symptom of what you're talking about, I think we can tell in our athletes, I don't think it matters what level. And some of it I think is a little bit of default behavior, but if you call someone off the field, and it may just be so they can get a water break, and I'm like, "Hey, Tori, great job out there on this," and you respond to me saying, "Yeah, but did you see me do this wrong?" And I mean, I see that all the time, and I think there's good cultures involved, but I think that's a little amplified when maybe I'm comparing myself to someone else who didn't do that at the moment. Or have you seen that same thing where it's like we downplay our successes because of a small negative?
I like speaking as a coach, I've seen it a lot with players where I'm just like, hey, come get like a quick water or whatever. And they're like, Coach Tori, I did this wrong. And I'm like, okay, but you did the shot that you've been practicing for weeks. I don't care that you did it in a game. Like it's gonna fall eventually. You just have to keep shooting. And I had one athlete this year. She got hurt like I want to say our third or fourth game into the season. And once she came back, I was like, okay, like what's your purpose for today? Like what do you see yourself doing? Just kind of like giving her that mental vision of like visualization, because I think it's good to like visualize your goals before you go into a game and say, hey, okay, it's okay that if I don't get this, it's not going to be the end of the world, but this is what I want to do for myself, as an individual, and then team goals, etc. I think that's really super important to do with a team. That way, they have a little bit of expectation, one of themselves and one as a team. But anyway, back to the story about my girl. Her first game back, she was like, okay, well, I just want to like be able to get my shots off quicker. And I said, okay, that's definitely something like we've been working on, so let's do it. Like get your shots off quicker. And I just remember like she didn't start that game because she was hurt, but when she went in, she went to go like take a creative shot and got pulled off like immediately. And I was like, oh no. And she goes down to the bench and immediately just like sobbing tears because she felt like it was the end of the world. And I went to go sit down with her and I was like, okay, like, let's get a temp check. What's going on in there? And she was like, I just feel like I'm more than capable of like having my starting spot back. And I don't know why my shots aren't connecting. And I was like, okay, well, what what can we do to fix that? And she was like, I think I could take my time a little bit more because the defense really isn't crashing. I said, okay, that's one thing. And I said, what are you doing really well at? And she was like, well, I'm winning all the draws. And I said, okay, well, let's take that momentum from the draw to fire us up, words of empowerment, to fire us up for when we're on the offensive end. Because you're killing it on defense. You've had so many turnovers. So now we just have to fix that next in between the 30 when we're on offense. And she's like, okay. And I said, okay, well, I want you to take a couple deep breaths, and when you're ready, we're going to put you back in. She goes, okay. Couple minutes later, she's like, I'm ready. And you could just tell in her voice, like she was confident. She was ready to go back in there. Okay, let's go. Put her back in, scores 3 goals when she goes back in. I'm like, okay, so like, remember how you felt when you scored those 3 goals. Remember what you were telling yourself. Remember the confidence that you had when you came up to me and said, hey, I'm ready to go back in. And I think that's super important for athletes to realize is like, yeah, you might mess up, you might get pulled off, but it's that after the fact. What can I do to fire myself back up again? Or what do I need from someone else to fire me back up? At the end of the day, as a coach, you have to look at, and I know it's a super duper hard thing to do, but you have to look at each individual player and say, hey, how can I coach this player? Because this player is going to be different from this player, going to be different from this player. Everyone's going to take feedback differently, no matter what. And I know they usually say there's 2 types of athletes, one that can take criticism and ones that can't. But for me as an athlete, I was the type of player that could take the criticism, but also to the point where if the criticism was more like negative feedback, like one time I had a coach say in front of the whole team, if you want to know what not to do, watch Tori. I had a coach say that about me. Or like just shot me down and say, hey, it's embarrassing that you let Tori just walk all over the defense. Why aren't we crashing on her? That was a really big hit to me mentally. I'll never forget those words. But now I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I am going to run over through the defense because if I'm not doing it, how are they going to get better? But at the time, I let it hold me back. So I think it's important to look at an individual player as a whole, see the player for who they truly are, and be able to adjust my coaching style to them. Because you never know if I start seeing a player that, is at the bottom of the team, she has no skills. But if you start seeing that person and you start to realize their potential, what they can do in the future is unlimited. And I've seen it in so many players already at South Walton, where I've just seen them for who they truly are, been able to adjust my coaching style to that person, and the growth they take is like exponential. It's amazing.
I I love the example you used because it used confidence. And that one's huge to me. I use it a lot because I think one of our favorite things as a coach, as a word of empowerment to an athlete, is to, shove them out onto the field and say, "You'll be good. Just go play with confidence." And they run out going, "Yeah, I'm going to play with confidence." And they get out there and they're like, "Hold on a second. How do I do that?" And so what we think of as a word of encouragement, confidence, turns out to be that motivational poster hanging on their wall. But what you did in that example is you taught them how to be confident by self-reflecting, self-analyzing, problem solving their way out of their own, I'll call it misery for lack of a better word at this current moment. Um, and getting themselves to the point where, they dried up the sobs and they kind of pulled their shoulders back and did their little power pose and like, yeah, I've got this. Um, to me, that's where the words of empowerment came in behind the scenes, not in a single word. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of talked about it too with the example of yourself, hey, if you want to see how not to do something and kind of that tough criticism, I think like those words we use to create the safe spaces, to show the vulnerability, to build the trust. I mean, how much effort and I obviously it's worth it, but how much effort is it to use that empowerment, use the example you did to create that space where that can start to become the norm across the culture?
Yeah. For me, I think it works really well because of the lessons that I do with my girls. And just being able to create that safe space for them to be vulnerable with me and be like, okay, hey, Coach Tori, like, I see myself struggling with this side of the game. Like, can you help me with that? And then, like I said, just being able to see that player for what they truly are, what their capabilities are, regardless of skill, regardless of like how good they are at fundamentals, because we can always get them there. We can always have them work on fundamentals and we can get them there. But at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter about that. It matters like what they're feeling in the moment. Okay. Because if they feel negative, they have that negative energy, they're never going to be able to take off. And if I'm there and I'm like, hey, like, and I have a player like this, she's gotten a lot better at like self talk. She used to be very negative. I used to call her Eeyore because she would just like would just like beat herself up at her lessons too. So once like you see the athlete and you know their capabilities and you know like okay, yeah, they might struggle at catching the ball here and there, but that's something that we can fix. Like they've caught the ball hundreds of other times. And to put it into perspective like that for the athlete and be like, they're like, Coach Tori, I'm not catching the ball right now. I don't know why. And I'm like, okay, how many other times have you caught the ball? And they're like, well, a lot. And I'm like, so you know how to do it, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, do it. Like, I've seen you catch the ball before. I know you know how to do it. You just got to do it now. Stop holding yourself back.
Well,
And they're
yeah.
like, you're so right. And then they get all happy again. And they're like, okay, well, I'm ready to go catch the ball and do my job out on the field. And I'm like, yeah, you are. And sometimes all it takes is that one little flip of the switch for an athlete is to be like, hey, you do know how to do this because I've seen you do it hundreds of times. And sometimes it's that little bit of, I want to say affirmation from your coach or maybe an affirmation from a teammate just being like, hey, you do know how to do that. Do it.
Well, I
So,
think the empowering part of that is if we can help them see that Eeyore side of them and what the impact is. So I think the light bulb goes off when they see, oh my gosh, when I'm like that, this is happening. So put on your teammate hat, put on your player hat, your teammate hat on the same topic, right? And I talk about this a lot, these kind of shared mental models. Like when we have a culture where we understand each other and I know the triggers and I know what to look for in your body language, in your communication. I know when something's under your skin, whether it's you or somebody else. How how do we navigate through our teammates, watching them struggle and picking them up with our words? Because a lot of times we have a tendency to be like, oh my gosh, Knowles, he'll never be good at that. How do we flip that script?
um, I will never forget this. It was at Roberts, and Emma, every time she shot, the ball was like just going over by like this much. And I just remember her like slamming her stick every single time. So I remember she had an 8 meter shot, and she wasn't, I want to say she was kind of, she might have had like one or two goals, but had missed a couple. And I remember like saying to her, like, Emma, put the ball down, put the ball down. And I remember going up to her and like touching her on the shoulder and being like, you got this. Like, just do it, score, you can do it. And I walked away, and I think I lined up on like the first inside hash. She was on the middle hash. And she took a deep breath, picked up the ball, and scored. And I was like, yes, because that is a win for her. When you're able to see, like, my teammate might be struggling, they might need a little, like, touch, like, on their back. Hey, you got this. A slap on their shoulder, a handshake, and be able to see your teammates. I think like seeing someone for who they are is so important as a teammate, as a coach, whatever role you're in. Because if you're at a school, like from the athletic director down, like that pyramid, if one of them's lacking, it might disrupt the whole system. Um, so just being able to see your teammate and what they need, like in that case scenario, like Emma just needed a source of touch. Like she needed someone to go up to her and be like, hey, you can do this. And just like look at her and be able to feel that energy that, hey, someone believes in me. Now I need to believe in myself here because Tori knows I can do it. Now I need to do it myself. Um, and then again, like for the Virgin Islands, I don't. You might remember Zoe Boz, but I remember in when we played at the Heritage Cup in 24. Um, she like was not having a good game, and I was like, Zoe, like let's go, turn it on. We can't wait. We're down by one. We need you here. Come on. And I just remember her being like, okay, yeah, I can do it, and being able to just play her game from there on out. And sometimes as a teammate, you'll have like the more reserved ones that, don't really say much but can do their job. And that's like where that consistency comes in too. Just like being able to be consistent at what your part is. So like the feeders, the dodgers, the drivers, be able to be consistent like at your part, because sometimes you might not be able to do it all as an athlete. You might not be that all around player, but you might be really freaking good at feeding. You might be really freaking good at scoring and dodging and driving, or you might be a really good cutter. And just knowing your part, and sometimes when you take yourself out of the game, like for me, I was a really good feeder but could drive when I needed to. Like it just depended on like what I was given in the moment, being able to have that IQ of when to do it. So I think that's super important for when like you're like, okay, well, what is the defense giving me right now? What can I do? Like, are they pressuring me out? Because then if they're pressuring me out, I need to be able to hit the girls on the inside, or I can take them because they're so far out and I'm away from the crash. So just being able to see like the whole field in your spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like one of the things you said, and I see it all the time, is you said that, wow, Tori knows I can do this, so I can do it. But
Mhm.
how often did Tori actually say that to herself, and speak to herself like she was her best friend? How do you work with your athletes you see are great team members, really firing up their teammates, telling them they can do stuff, and yet they're the first ones to beat the snot out of themselves?
All the time. Like my one girl that I gave an example about earlier, she started playing lacrosse 2 years ago. She's going to be a junior this year, and her game, she's just excelled. Like, she's one of the players that will hype up her teammates, but as soon as she does something wrong, it's literally a gunshot wound to the foot. Like, she just shoots herself in the foot every single time because she lets that negative energy channel in. And she's gotten a lot better at it. But, like, sometimes I'll tell her, like, I will make you do I'm a star jumping jacks right now. And sometimes they're like, okay, Coach Tori, like you don't need to be dramatic, and like just being able to draw that smile on their face like might mean the world to them, and they might just split right then and there. So being able to practice that with them outside and be like, oh hey, that was really good. Like give me I'm a star jumping jacks, and they'll do it and be so happy about it. They'll remember that feeling of when they did that. And so when I'm like, please don't make me make you do I'm a star jumping jacks right now because you know you're a star, you can do it. And then they'll smile and they'll be like, yeah, that's right. Don't need to beat myself up right now.
Yeah, and I think as long as anybody, if you have a growth mindset and you're accountable, and I mean, we say, hey, that's okay, but knowing that we have to get better, I think being able to laugh at yourself a little bit, kind of what you said, make them have a smile or something. I mean, I laugh at myself constantly because I'm always messing up, and I think it doesn't let me get down on myself. I know I need to get better, but at the same time, I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not being Eeyore about it.
Yeah. Um, I'll never forget this. But this was this past season at practice. I would play with the girls sometimes. Well, one, just because I think it shows a lot of servant leadership, like showing them like when you put in the work, like this is how you can be. You can be as good as me. And they ask me all the time, Coach Tori, how are you so good? How are you so good? And I'm like, well, a lot of practice, a lot of like learning, a lot of growing. And they're like, okay, like I need to go on the wall after practice, and then I'll see them on the wall. But regardless of that, um, I remember I had the ball and I was going to goal, and our goalie Chloe just like came up with the most astonishing save. And the only thing that I could do was laugh at.
Oh, you with us? I think we froze.
Are we back?
I think
I
we're
think.
back.
I think we're back.
So you just got stuffed. You were just talking about getting stuffed.
Yeah. I got stuff like a Thanksgiving at like a turkey on Thanksgiving. I almost worded that wrong. But she stuffed me and all I could do was laugh. I literally dropped my stick and I put my hands on my knee, blurted out, just laughing. And all the girls start laughing. I'm like, this is what you have to do when, like, yeah, Chloe made a great save, but I was also so open. I should have scored that, but that is so funny. Like, I just am going to laugh. And being able to showcase that to your players, like, hey, when you mess up, it's okay to laugh. Like, laugh at yourself a little bit because sometimes it's so astonishing to you that you might have missed the net on a wide open shot or the goalie's not even in the net at all and you missed. Like that is funny. You got to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace.
Well, and I think that things can be serious. I don't know if I'm, things can be serious, but we don't need to take ourselves so serious. You know,
Yeah.
there could be a lot of pressure on a game. Maybe it's a national championship. Maybe it's your huge final. Maybe it's a huge job interview. Yeah, stakes are high. But it, okay. I mean, you can only do so much. So it's kind of like, what the heck?
Yeah. Um I like that you said that because when we played Mercy my grad year, like for that ECC finals, that was the first time I had ever been in a championship setting. And I just remember like thinking to myself that morning, Natalie and I were in the room together. Um, and I just remember like sitting on the bed like this and just like breathing and being like, okay, yeah, like pressure's on, but like we've prepped and just knowing like we put in the work to be there. Just knowing like I've prepped basically my entire lacrosse career to be in a championship setting right now. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, we didn't come up with the trophy, but like being able to just be in that spot, knowing we put in the work, knowing we put in the practice, the growth, the mental lessons, whatever it was, that was what one like changed me what we're doing and be able to show them that I think is super like I'm very grateful for my experiences as a player because now I can shape my players based on my experience and be able to coach them based on my experience, which is why like I'm really glad I had the experience that I had at Embry Riddle. I'm very grateful for my time at Roberts Wesleyan. Taught me so much. I grew a ton as a person and a player. And now being able to show that to my girls, like, okay, well, this is the person that I don't want to be as a coach, and this is the person that I do want to be as a coach. So just being able to take that experience, the words that I learned, the ones that I don't want to keep in my vocab, and the ones that I do, like being able to differentiate the two, has made me a good coach, in my opinion. I don't mean to my own horn, but
Well, and I think to kind of close out the confidence idea too, you talked about before the game, before the experience, just laying there knowing that you had put in the work for how many ever years and that's where that confidence comes from. So I think when we're, you know, if as coaches we want to be like, hey, we'll be fine, just go and play with confidence, we have to make sure that our athletes understand what that is. You know,
uh-huh.
back to your working with the athlete on, hey, how would you go about doing this and stuff like that. Hey, we've worked 13 years since you were little for this. I think just reminding them that, you know, it's not anything you don't have, that you've built that up. On the flip side, we have to make sure that as individuals, we're putting in the effort when we need to, and as coaches, that we're creating those environments that we can do those 360 cognitive, creative, instinctual motions when we need to, because that could be the game winner in a huge situation.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And this past season too at South Walton, we were playing Gulf Breeze, which is like a very big rival of ours. And they had the lead on us almost the entire game. It was either we were down by one, it was tied, or they were up by two, whatever it was. But at the very end, it was tied. There was like, I don't even know how many seconds there were on the clock. It was ridiculous. I want to say there was like 13 seconds left in the game. So we're at the center draw circle. We're like, okay, well, if we don't get the draw, like it's not the end of the world. We just have to hold them off. Um, but that's not a lot of time for us to go down and score. We'll go to overtime. We can win it in overtime. Like we've done it before. So we end up winning the draw, and one of my players ends up taking a shot from midfield, and it goes in. It was insane, Nolsey. Like I still like am getting goosebumps from it. Um, but knowing that player specifically, she knew like that her team backed her up, that every single coach on the coaching staff backed her up as a player. And she was like, we got nothing to lose right now. I'm just going to take it. Like, the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't go in and we go into overtime. That's the worst thing that could happen right now. So, just knowing, like, in the back of your head, every time you step on the field, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing. Um, and that stems from like just having courage, having that confidence. If you are having the confidence, and if you don't have that, having the courage to just play regardless of like skill level, IQ, just being able to be a learner and grow from that.
Well, and I think the support too, you mentioned
Yeah.
had this support, and I think all, all those words building up that support, but because if if those encouraging words up to the point to make her feel safe to do that didn't exist, then the worst case, what's the worst can happen, would have been something else, right? I'll get yelled at. So I think that's a great example, and that's a crazy shot, by the way.
Yeah. I'll have to
And
send you the video. It's nuts.
that's
You
really
can
wild,
see me like go crazy on the sideline. I do like a little twirl and just like screaming my head off because I personally I was like shocked that she took the shot, but I was like glad she did. And I
right?
was like, that was the best thing I've seen in the lacrosse world in however many years I've been playing and coaching. It was awesome.
It's crazy. I want to respect your time. I know we're about an hour, but I have one topic I wanted to go back to quick. And
Yeah.
it's back to the Damon game.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, crazy weather, crazy hail, and external, the environment, something you couldn't control. And you were fired up, ready to go. And I can't remember when the storm hit, if it played into it, but
I want
kind
to
of,
say it was the second quarter.
yeah, that kind of, it wasn't the beginning. But it makes me think of, we can use some not too pleasant words on ourselves or on others when things are out of our control. Bad call, bad weather, a bad pregame meal. I don't know. You didn't like the tune that was played ahead of time. I mean, how how do we manage that dialogue with ourselves to like say, you know what, that stuff doesn't matter. It's distracting me. I need to pull myself into this focus so we can be successful. Because it's easy to blame everything else.
Oh yeah. And for me, like for that during that game, it was I just remember like letting the refs get to me. I remembered the ball was like so close to the sideline. We were The field was like this, right? the benches were over here and then the stadium was like up here. We were going this way, and I just remember the ball, like someone had passed me the ball, but I was turned around, so I didn't know it was coming. And it like landed in front of me and it was like about to go out of bounds. And I remember like diving for the ball and like stopping it from going out of bounds and the ref calling it out of bounds. And I was like, are you? I wanted to say, are you blind? So bad. I wanted to say it. And I just remember letting that get to me and being like, okay, well, we have bad refs. Now I'm going to probably play bad. Like they're going to not let a lot of things go. And holding myself back from my potential because of one little thing. But now looking back onto it, it's like, okay, yeah, let me just like find my zen. I like to say that a lot, like find your zen, your inner peace, and then go. Like you have 2 seconds to dwell on it, but now we're in the future. It doesn't matter anymore. So being able as an athlete to handle that and be like, okay, composure, like let's go. I'm done. That's in the past. Got to move on. There's 60 more minutes of the game to play. I'm not going to let 1 second deter that.
Is that
Um,
is that a breath for you, or do you have like a reset word?
Mine, I would say, is a reset sentence. Well, not really a sentence, but I usually am like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Get out of your head. Come on. Or sometimes it is a breath where I'm like, if I miss like two free positions, usually it's a deep breath. I'm like, okay. And then I'll pick up the ball and take the free position. Um, and a lot of the girls that I coach, I've taught that where I'm like, okay, set the ball down. Like, free positions are easy. Know that they're easy. You know how to take them. Take a mental reset, deep breath, and when you pick that ball up, be ready to score a goal. And they're like, okay. And most of my girls now are shooting, our free position shooting has gone up tremendously, like percentage wise. I want to say we're like maybe 85% of free positions we score, which is a really good number. Um, so just being able to like teach my experience, my playing experience, being able to coach that to the girls that I have, um, I think it like has done wonders for me as a coach.
Yeah, 100%, 100% agree. And having worked with you through some of your internal stuff, and seeing the difference, I can imagine that how valuable that is for, someone who's experiencing it to hopefully lesser of an extent
Mm-hmm.
earlier so they can succeed quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I think that made sense.
Yeah,
Um, Tori, thank you very much for chatting through some of this stuff today. We could go on for another 5 hours, but
I know we could. We're chatty Cathy's.
I I guess I'll have to have you back at some point.
Yes, please. I love talking about it. I love plus two, like hearing other people's experiences, like you being a really great learner of the game because you've never played girls lacrosse before, obviously. Um, just being able to hear like your insights, it helps me not only continue growing as a player, but continue growing as a person and a coach. Because, like I said, like being able to take that experience, that outside information, be able to like internalize that for myself and then externalize that when I coach has done tr- wonders for me. And just being able to share that is unbelievable. So I'm so grateful. So
Hopefully, some of
grateful.
your athletes will be able to watch this and get some wisdom out of it as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely
Tori,
be sharing.
I appreciate you, and we will talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank
See,
you.
see ya.
See you.